Welcome to the debate. In Formula One, there's supposed to be an orderly queue. You pay your dues, you carry the bags for the veterans, you wait for the legends to gracefully retire, right?
Right. Exactly.
And eventually the team principal points to you and says, it's your turn. But what happens when a 19-year-old rookie just completely obliterates that queue, kicks down the door, and takes the seat at the head of the table?
Well, what happens when the team management is the one actively holding that door open for him? I mean, that's the real question.
Exactly. Today we are tearing into the absolute powder keg that is Mercedes during this 2026 Formula One season, because the new technical regulations, they've completely rewritten the rules of engagement here.
Oh, absolutely.
The dirty air effect, that turbulent wake of air that previously prevented cars from following each other closely, it's been drastically minimized. So tactical nose-to-tail racing is back. And the biggest shockwave? Mercedes has absolutely weaponized these regulations. I mean, they're operating with a staggering 1.5-step performance advantage over the rest of the grid.
Yeah, they aren't just beating Ferrari and McLaren, They are practically racing in a different formula entirely.
Right, which isolates the World Championship into this highly exclusive, intensely claustrophobic battle between two teammates at completely opposite ends of their career arcs. On one side, you have the 19-year-old phenomenon, Kimi Antonelli, in only a second season.
Yeah.
And on the other, George Russell, the 28-year-old hardened veteran with, over 150 Grand Prix starts.
Yeah, the pressure inside that garage right now, it must just be suffocating.
It is. Which brings us to the absolute core of our disagreement today. Kimi Antonelli has won 4 of the first 5 races. He is just dominating. So does this stunning early streak signal a definitive, permanent changing of the guard? Or will George Russell's veteran consistency, his surgical racecraft, and his calculated mastery of a 24-race marathon ultimately break the high-variance razor's edge driving of an inexperienced rookie?
Right.
Because, look, I firmly believe Antonelli has legitimately usurped the team leadership. His raw speed and psychological resilience prove he isn't just riding a wave, he is the definitive title favorite.
See, we are looking at the exact same data and seeing 2 totally different realities. I mean, I come at it from a different way entirely. I argue that we need to apply some serious intellectual charity towards George Russell right now.
Okay, how so?
Well, when you actually strip away the superficial points tally, Russell's current deficit is heavily skewed by variance and mechanical failure. Russell's calculated consistency is like a blue chip index fund, right? Over 24 races, compound interest wins.
Right, but
Antonelli is day trading meme stocks. I mean, the returns look massive right now, sure, but driving on the absolute physical limit every single lap, that mathematically guarantees a catastrophic crash at some point.
see, I have to push back on that framing immediately, because calling Antonelli a meme stock completely ignores the brutal reality of the stopwatch. I mean, he has built a massive 43-point lead.
Well, sure, but
let's get into the mechanics of this, because I admit I am struggling to understand the physics of what we are actually watching out there. You look at Russell's telemetry, right? And he is hitting his braking points with robotic perfection.
exactly. Perfect execution.
So mechanically, how is it even possible that a teenager who is visually sliding the car around, who looks like he is constantly on the verge of losing control, how is he somehow extracting an extra 1/10 of a second per lap?
Because you have to look at how these specific 2026 ground effect cars actually generate grip. Because these cars, they rely so heavily on the underfloor aero tunnels to suck the car to the track. They have to be run incredibly low and incredibly stiff.
Right.
Now, George Russell learned his trade in an era of softer suspensions. In those older cars, when you started to lose grip, you could literally feel the load shifting through the steering column. You had a fraction of a second to calculate your correction.
Okay, so what happens now?
Today, when a stiff ground effect car loses lateral grip, it snaps instantly. By the time your conscious brain calculates the loss of traction, you are already in the wall.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. Antonelli isn't calculating anything. His twitch reflexes are handling the snap, oversteer, or for his conscious mind even processes the slide. He has absolutely no muscle memory to unlearn. He relies entirely on instinct, which allows him to dance right on that jagged edge. Russell is still trying to logically process a chassis that honestly defies logic.
Okay, that makes perfect sense fundamentally. But it also highlights exactly why Antonelli's approach is the new baseline, right? It's not a reckless anomaly.
I don't know about that.
Let's look at the Canadian Grand Prix because I think it perfectly crystallizes this dynamic. You talk about variance and mechanical failures hiding Russell's brilliance. In Montreal, yes, Russell's engine blew while he was leading.
While he was leading the race, yes.
But what you are ignoring is the 50 laps of relentless, suffocating psychological pressure that Antonelli applied to put Russell in a vulnerable position in the first place.
Oh, come on. Pressure doesn't blow an internal combustion engine. That's just...
It forces mistakes, though.
Russell was putting on a tactical masterclass. Let's look at the actual timeline in Canada, okay? Russell dominated the Saturday sprint. Then on Sunday, we had those treacherous wet-to-dry crossover conditions.
Right, where McLaren and Audi messed up.
Exactly. They made the catastrophic error of starting on intermediate tires on a drying track and ruined their races immediately. Russell didn't. He managed the tire temperatures perfectly on the slicks. He was actively leading, defending the inside lines brilliantly against the hyper-aggressive Antonelli.
He was defending because Antonelli completely ignored the team's conservatism. I mean, Toto Wolff explicitly told them after their sprint race clash to hold position, right? To bring the cars home.
Yes, which Russell was doing.
But Antonelli threw that playbook out the window. He was an unyielding force in Russell's mirrors, attacking on the outside of turn 1, forcing Russell to look backward rather than forward.
Look, forcing a driver to look in his mirrors is not the same thing as successfully executing a pass. Let's talk about the hairpin incident, because that is where your whole narrative falls apart.
The dive bomb?
Yes, the dive bomb. Antonelli threw a massive, late-breaking dive bomb down the outside of the hairpin. Russell didn't flinch. He held the interior line, placed his car perfectly on the apex, and forced Antonelli into the dirty part of the track.
Which is fair racing.
And what happened next?
Antonelli panicked, locked his front right tire, and had completely skipped the chicane at the Wall of Champions.
Well, he skipped the chicane, sure, but he kept the pressure on immediately after.
But he lost the tactical battle. If Russell's Mercedes doesn't physically expire in a cloud of smoke 5 laps later, Antonelli finishes second and spends the post-race debrief complaining about dirty air.
I mean,
Russell absorbed the pressure perfectly. He stepped out of his smoking car on the grass, threw his headrest in frustration, and had to watch his teammate inherit a victory. Russell didn't lose to a superior driver. He lost to a broken crankshaft.
listen, Russell didn't just lose an engine in Canada. He lost his sense of justice. And that brings us to the real underlying problem here, the mechanism driving all this tension, the internal politics at Mercedes.
Oh, the politics are insane. You see a veteran robbed by an engine failure. I see a veteran who is being systematically dismantled by his own team's shifting allegiance.
The injustice is staggering. Map out George Russell's career for a second. He was the ultimate corporate soldier. He literally built PowerPoint presentations to convince Toto Wolff to pull him out of a back-of-the-grid Williams.
Right.
He bided his time. He was the dutiful understudy to Lewis Hamilton. He finally beats Hamilton, forces him out, and assumes the mantle. And his reward? Mercedes brings in a teenager, and the moment that teenager shows pace, the team principal starts lavishing him with absolute, unchecked favoritism.
You're talking about the cotton wool treatment.
Absolutely. When Russell makes a strategic miscall, he is interrogated in the media. When Antonelli makes a massive error, the team physically shields him. Think back to Antonelli's very first F1 weekend at Monza.
The Parabolica crash.
Yes, he bends the car into the barrier at the Parabolica in front of his home crowd. Or earlier this year, when he destroyed the floor in Free Practice 3 in Australia. What did Toto Wolff do?
He protected him.
He stood in front of the garage cameras, physically put his arm around the kid, and deflected all the blame. I have to wonder, is this blatant favoritism artificially inflating Antonelli's confidence? It is manufacturing an environment where Russell is fighting his own pit wall as much as his teammate.
Well, okay, is it artificial inflation or is it just elite man management? Because I argue that Toto Wolff is shielding Antonelli because Antonelli immediately repays that protection with cold hardy currency, race wins.
I mean, sure, but
He didn't let the Parabolica crash ruin his weekend. He didn't let the Australia crash slow him down. He literally went out and won the race. Mercedes is giving Antonelli the cotton wool treatment because his performance ceiling is demonstrably higher.
But you cannot sustain a championship campaign purely on management coddling and raw, unrefined pace. Formula One is a data-driven sport. Do you really think George Russell is just sitting in his motorhome sulking?
I think he's burning an immense amount of emotional energy complaining on the radio, yeah.
Okay, he is complaining on the radio, but behind closed doors, he is in the engineering debriefs, tearing into the telemetry.
Well, they all do that.
But because of the transparency rules within teams, Russell can see every single data trace from Antonelli's car. He can see exactly how many bars of brake pressure the kid is applying, exactly where he is picking up the throttle. Russell is a deeply analytical driver.
That's true.
He is studying that data, diagnosing exactly where Antonelli is finding that extra tenth in the high-speed corners, and actively adapting his own driving style. You absolutely cannot count out a driver with Russell's intellectual capacity for self-improvement.
I'm certainly not counting him out, but intellectual adaptation takes time. Instinct does not, and time is a luxury Russell simply doesn't have right now. Which, forces us to look ahead. We are only 5 races deep. What happens mechanically to this rivalry when the 2026 European season truly begins?
The pressure cooker arrives. That's what happens. And this is where the veteran edge becomes an insurmountable advantage. When we hit Imola, Monaco, and Silverstone, the hype machine shifts into overdrive.
Oh, yeah.
The Italian press will be dedicating front pages to Antonelli every single morning. He will be expected to win every session. We have seen this exact scenario destroy highly touted rookies. Look at Oscar Piastri's meltdown in Baku last year.
Wait, explain the mechanics of that meltdown, though. Because Piastri was quick all weekend.
He was incredibly quick, but he didn't understand the attrition of the tires under pressure. Piastri had all the momentum, but when Ferrari successfully executed an undercut pitting Charles Leclerc a lap earlier for fresh rubber to steal track position, Piastri panicked.
Right, he pushed too hard.
Instead of slowly bringing his new tires up to the optimal operating window, he overdrove his outlap to try and catch Leclerc. He aggressively slid the rear of the car through the castle section, fundamentally overheating the surface of the tire and permanently damaging the core carcass.
Wow.
5 laps later, he had 0 traction and plummeted down the order. That wasn't just a generic loss of head. It was a failure to manage the physical mechanics of the car under extreme psychological duress. When Antonelli suffers his first real setback, when he strings together 2 DNFs, how does a 19-year-old process a 43-point lead evaporating in a fortnight?
Okay, that is a phenomenal breakdown of the Baku incident and a very real warning. But here is the critical difference between Piastri's McLaren last year and Antonelli's Mercedes this year. The safety net.
What safety net?
Mercedes has built a 1.5-step performance gap. Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, the Ferraris, the McLarens, they simply cannot match the downforce numbers Mercedes is producing right now.
Well, yeah, they are basically racing in a vacuum.
Exactly, which is the greatest luxury a young driver can have in this sport. Let's say your scenario plays out. Let's say Antonelli does succumb to the pressure in Monaco. Let's say he misjudges the braking point at Saint-Devote and puts it in the wall.
Which is highly likely.
Or let's say Ferrari finally brings a floor upgrade that actually works and they start stealing wins. Even in those worst-case scenarios, Antonelli has built such a massive mathematical cushion that he has the luxury to learn, to make those rookie errors and still maintain his championship lead. He doesn't have to be perfect for the next 19 races. He just has to be fast. And we both know he is fundamentally faster than Russell in this specific machinery.
I still reject the premise that he is fundamentally faster. He is fundamentally more willing to risk completely destroying the chassis to find a tenth of a second. That is a massive distinction.
Is it, though?
Yes, and even with the reduced dirty air in these 2026 regulations, following another car closely still drastically spikes the surface temperature of the tires. If you are constantly driving in the turbulent wake of your teammate, Fighting tooth and nail, your tires will degrade faster.
True.
Over a 50-lap stint, that high variance aggression is going to bite him. You can rely on twitch reflexes for a 5-race sprint, but a world championship is won in the tire management over a full race distance.
And that is exactly why this championship battle is so utterly compelling. It isn't just a clash of drivers, it is a fundamental clash of motorsport philosophies. As we bring our arguments together, I stand firmly by my position. F1 history is incredibly cruel, and it rarely waits for those who feel they are owed a title. We saw it in 1996 when Williams unceremoniously dropped Damon Hill despite him winning the world championship, simply because they had a faster replacement waiting. The sport is ruthlessly forward-looking. George Russell's been a brilliant, loyal, analytical soldier for Mercedes. But Kimi Antonelli's sheer force of will, his mesmerizing speed, and his instinctual mastery of these brutal ground effect regulations have already established him as the de facto leader. He is not the future of Mercedes, he is the present.
And I maintain that you do not win world championships purely on explosive speed. Titles are won through attrition, mental endurance, and engineering precision. That single, heartbreaking engine failure in Canada is currently obscuring the absolute reality of this fight.
You really think so?
I do. Russell won the tactical battle in Montreal before his machinery failed him. He is studying the telemetry, he is adapting to the stiff suspension, and he has the cooler head required to navigate the inevitable moment when Antonelli's tire management fails him. The rookie is flying high right now, sure, but gravity and the law of averages always reassert themselves in Formula One. When the margins tighten and the car isn't perfect, Russell's experience will be the deciding factor.
Well, we do agree on one thing, however. The true crucible for this rivalry is fast approaching. The intense European summer stretch, specifically that grueling run heading toward the Hungarian Grand Prix right before the summer break, is going to test the absolute limits of both the chassis and the drivers.
Oh, Hungary is the ultimate stress test. It is a tight, high downforce, low-speed circuit that relies purely on mechanical grip and traction out of the slow corners.
Right.
Overdriving the corner entry absolutely destroys your exit speed there. It severely punishes the exact type of high-variance aggression Antonelli relies on. That might just be the weekend this championship pendulum violently swings back to the veteran.
It is the ultimate proving ground, so we leave it to you to ponder. In this high-stakes, hyper-engineered world of elite motorsport, does raw, explosive, instinctual talent permanently jump the queue? Or will seasoned, analytical, calculated resilience ultimately reclaim its rightful place at the front of the line? Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on The Debate.